Welcome back, beautiful tri-state area. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. I am so excited to introduce the Polished Beauty segment. We are debuting it tonight. We're joined by our newest contributor, Dr. Daisy Ayim. She's a triple board certified cosmetic surgeon and highly respected obstetrician and gynecologist. She's a highly trained solo private practice owner of over 15 years. She has distinguished accomplishments both nationally and internationally, and she has trailblazed the hybrid private practice of cosmetic surgery and OBGYN as a unit, creating a trifecta of women's health, wellness, and beauty. And if that wasn't enough, she's also the host of the Polished Beauty podcast. She's going to join me tonight in our Expert on the Microphone series, and we're going to break down the latest in women's health, wellness, and beauty. Welcoming now to the show is the amazing trailblazer, Dr. Daisy Ayim. Welcome to the show, superstar.
I'm so excited to be here.
So excited to have you on. So let's start from the very beginning. Tell us more about what you aim to accomplish through the Polished Beauty segment and podcast.
Yeah, the Polished Beauty segment or the Polished Beauty podcast, I came up with this because in my private practice, I deal with women. And I thought, how can I take my private practice online? Podcast. So it's going to focus what I call the 4B woman, right? We're going to look into her business, her brain, her beauty, and her body, which is everything I discuss here in my practice.
Polished Beauty sounds like it's going to hit all the right notes, from the inner workings of women's bodies to external wellness and beauty. Just like you said, it's incredible to have a space dedicated to these conversations. In fact, a study by the American Journal of Public Health showed that over 90% of women want more educational content on their health and well-being, especially as they enter perimenopause and beyond. So what inspired you to create the Polished Beauty podcast?
You know, it's really amazing because in 2020, when COVID happened, like all of us, my practice, I had to shut down. I have three arms of my practice: a cosmetic surgery, obstetrics, and gynecology. So I had to shut down gynecology and cosmetic surgery, like most people. The only thing I could do was obstetrics. And babies come all the time. But, I had a lot of free time too on my hands. So I sat here in my office and I thought, okay, online seems like the next space. How do I get online? And in what capacity do I want to be online? So it was just a brainstorming around 2020. I decided on podcast, and literally it's taken me 4 years because I like to take my time to put things together. And I had all the content. It was just a matter of timing.
It's so important that we have platforms like this very one to speak openly. And women's health often gets overshadowed by broader medical discussions. In reality, 75% of women experience at least one menopausal symptom by age 50, yet so many feel there's little public conversation around it. So, what you are doing is extremely important with this Polished Beauty podcast. Now, let's dive into the vision and the audience for Polished Beauty. Who are you speaking to, and what message do you hope to deliver?
I am speaking to every woman, literally, right? In every season of a woman's life. And that can vary from childbearing or not childbearing, from career or not, from health choices or not. So any changes that you go through as a woman, you're my audience. And as an obstetrician and gynecologist, all I deal with women. They come here for one problem. We find ourselves talking about something completely different, but it's all related. So my audience is every woman going through any seasons of her life. And, in some ways, I call it ambition meets empowerment, because a lot of my patients that I meet are very ambitious. Most women are. And how do you empower yourself? And how do you empower others? So my audience is all of you women in any stage of your life.
I love that your message is all about empowerment and education. A recent study showed that over 60% of women feel unprepared for menopause, and having a trusted voice to break it all down is so incredibly valuable. In fact, it's priceless. Speaking of which, perimenopause is something that can be mysterious for many women. Could you explain exactly what perimenopause is?
Yes. Perimenopause refers to the time of a woman's life where your cycles are skipping. So it's not monthly like you're used to. And for most women, usually happen in the 40s, but it can happen earlier for some in their 30s. So this may go on for several years until you have complete stop of your cycle. And when that happens for one full year, that's when we call it menopause. So perimenopause is kind of this dance. It's like, okay, are we dancing? Are we not dancing? Are we waiting or not? So during that time, you may also have some symptoms that's typically associated with menopause.
It's such a crucial time of life, yet so often misunderstood. I had no idea that
Yes.
perimenopause can start as early as a woman's mid 30s. A Journal of Women's Health study highlighted that up to 80% of women experience symptoms like mood swings and
Yes.
night sweats and irregular periods during this phase, but they're not always sure what's happening. So it's important that we educate and highlight all of these symptoms and come up with ways to mitigate some of these consequences during this extremely difficult transition in our bodies. Now, when it comes to treatments, what options are available for women going through perimenopause?
Yes, because perimenopause is such a time where it's not very clear and consent. Your symptoms is what we treat. So during that time, if you're, say, having hot flashes, which is a popular one, then, we have hormone replacement therapy that we can discuss with you as an option. And then there are non-hormonal therapy options as well. There's that virate treatment. Now, if you have symptoms like vaginal dryness or decreased libido, which is more of a common thing that women experience in that late 30s and early 40s, we have some treatment that are surgical, non-surgical, or devices or creams or estrogen tablets or local treatments to handle that.
And yet, around 45% of women don't actually seek treatment for perimenopause symptoms, according to the North American Menopause Society. And that's part of a lack of awareness, which is why what you're doing here with Polished Beauty is so important. Now, can women experience menopause like symptoms during perimenopause?
Yes, you can absolutely feel like you're having hot flashes, vaginal dryness, decreased sexual interest, just feeling like you're not yourself mentally during perimenopause. And that's where it's very milky, right? Because prior to all this conversation on menopause and perimenopause, you may have been experiencing this, but didn't know where to put it. You didn't know where to park it. And you didn't even know to call your gynecologist. You're just like, I'm not feeling myself, but it did not resonate that, oh, there's actually a medical condition that I'm experiencing, and it's called perimenopause. So yeah, it's one of those things where I love talking about this. I've been practicing for about 17 plus years, and when I started my practice I was 31, and now I'm 47. I've literally grown up with my women, and some of them were older than me, so it's amazing that I'm also a perimenopausal physician, and now we're kind of doing that dance, and it's amazing.
Without a doubt. 2018, a study found that around 25% of women report severe symptoms in perimenopause, often mistaking them for something else entirely. So it's important that we understand when and what is happening to our bodies, and that we have the right practitioners like yourself to help and guide us through this time. Now, let's talk about menopause itself. Can you walk us through what happens to a woman's body during menopause?
Yes. First, the definition of menopause is no cycle for 12 full months. So you have to go an entire year without bleeding, and then you're considered menopause. During menopause, you may not have any symptoms. So I don't want anyone to think that if I'm not having symptoms, I'm not in menopause. You are in menopause because it's an objective definition. After that, if you're having symptoms, some of the common symptoms are hot flashes. You may have memory fog. You may have tiredness, fatigue. You may notice that you're just gaining weight, especially around the abdomen area for whatever reason. You've been always been active. You've had good lifestyle, but yet you find yourself gaining weight. You may have vaginal dryness. You may have lubrication issues where you're just not enjoying sex as much. You may report lack of sensation in the vaginal area. You may notice your joint are hurting you. Working out is not the same. So all these symptoms, because there are estrogen receptors everywhere from your head to toe, you may have anything that's impacted with an estrogen receptor.
It's such a powerful change, and about 1.3 million women in the US enter menopause each year. and yet the stigma surrounding it can make it feel like a hush-hush topic. But really, it's the start of a new chapter, not an ending. So, women, embrace this incredible time in your lives. Now, of course, there are various treatments available to manage menopause symptoms. What are the most effective options today?
Well, the gold standard in managing menopause is estrogen therapy. The reason why we're in menopause as women is because our estrogen levels is depleting or has depleted. So the best way to fix that is to replace it with estrogen. The question you have to ask yourself is, how do I want to bring estrogen or hormone back into my system? Do I want to take a tablet? Do I want to do a cream, a topical cream? Do I want to do a patch? Do I want to take hormone intravaginally as a local estrogen therapy? Or do I want to do a pellet, which is a subcutaneous injection? So you just have to decide which route is comfortable for me to get hormone back into my system. And that's how we treat it. That's the gold standard. Now, there are non-hormonal therapies or medications in the market that I do prescribe that, for some women, they don't want to be on hormone therapy for one reason or another. A lot of time it's misconception or misinformation that has been out for decades that they're clinging on to. So a good education will allow them to realize that it's actually safe. But if you don't want estrogen or hormone, there are non-hormonal prescription medications that can be prescribed. And then there are over-the-counter remedies that you may use to try to alleviate your symptoms.
We're almost at the end of our session. What is it that you would love the audience to know about you? A couple of fun facts.
Well, 3 fun facts about me. Number 1, I love to work out. I work out about 6 days a week, literally, guys. And that is something I've been doing since I was 15. And because of that, number 2, I make sure that what I eat is very important. So I'm very intentional what I put on my plate. So I do a lot of home cooking, and that allows me to maintain a healthy lifestyle. I bring all of that, number 3, into my practice, and I hold my patients accountable by introducing healthy living, by eating healthy, exercising, so that when we do cosmetic surgery, your results are going to be amazing and it's going to last you a longer time. So I'm looking at sustainability and longevity in cosmetic surgery, and I hold my patients accountable.
I love it. Thank you so much for being honest and transparent. That was amazing. That was the incredible Dr. Daisy Ayim. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you, guys.
That was the Polished Beauty segment, and that was the amazing Dr. Daisy Ayim. Definitely head to her website at drdaisyyim.com, and you can check her out on the gram at Dr. Daisy Ayim. And to learn more and to keep up with the Polished Beauty podcast, head to thepolishedbeautypodcast.com, or do check them out on the gram at Polished Beauty Podcast. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. We'll be right back after this. A Moment of Zen is brought to you by the Polished Beauty Podcast with Dr. Daisy Ayim. Hey, ambitious women, ready to shine on the inside and out? Tune in to the Polished Beauty Podcast, where we talk about business, beauty, brains, and body all in one spot. Meet Dr. Daisy Ayim, triple board certified cosmetic surgeon, pro-aging advocate, fitness enthusiast, and your go-to for real talk on leveling up every part of your life. The Polished Beauty Podcast is your dose of ambition meets empowerment. For more information, head to polishedbeautypodcast.com.